The sky was a dull gray, as if the earth itself was holding its breath. Around the world, people went about their daily lives, unaware of the message that would soon change everything. For most, it was just another regular day, work, school, and the usual noise of city streets. But far above them, in the depths of space, something was happening. Something that would soon become impossible to ignore. It began as a faint signal. A whisper in the vastness of the cosmos. The first warning arrived with a cold, electronic hum, so quiet that few even noticed it. But then, the messages grew stronger, more frequent. A hidden pattern emerged, and finally, the message became clear. A warning, no, a final warning, from an unknown alien race. Earth had 24 hours to change its ways or face annihilation. The news broke out slowly. At first, it seemed unbelievable. The message had come from a distant part of space, a place humanity had only begun to explore. Experts dismissed it as a hoax, a glitch in the system. The thought of an alien civilization contacting Earth seemed ridiculous, even to the most open-minded. So, the world's leaders ignored it. They brushed it aside as if it were nothing more than another viral rumor on the internet. But for one person, the message wasn't something to ignore. Dr. Ethan Harris, a scientist working at a top-secret government lab, studied the message over and over. He wasn't convinced it was a prank. The data didn't lie. There were clear signs that it was real, far too real. The warning wasn't just about an alien invasion, it was about Earth's survival. He tried to warn the higher-ups, but his pleas fell on deaf ears. His superiors were too wrapped up in their own world of politics and power. Even when the message became clearer, when it was decoded to reveal disturbing details, such as the alien race's knowledge of Earth's environmental collapse and growing nuclear tensions, no one listened. The world's leaders dismissed it as paranoia. Don't worry about it, they told him. It's just space noise. There's nothing to fear. But Dr. Harris couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. His instincts told him this wasn't just a warning, it was a countdown. A countdown that humanity was too blind to see. He reached out to his trusted colleague, Dr. Maria Castillo, a brilliant astrophysicist, hoping she might see the same patterns he did. After hours of decoding the message, she confirmed his worst fears. The aliens weren't threatening humanity, they were warning them. But it was already too late. Dr. Harris didn't know what to do. The governments wouldn't listen. The public wouldn't care. As the day went on, the message continued to repeat itself, growing louder, more urgent. The clock was ticking, and the Earth had no idea how close it was to disaster. Then, something happened that made it all too real. A storm unlike anything ever seen on Earth began to form. It wasn't just a thunderstorm or a hurricane. This storm was different. It moved with unnatural speed, swallowing cities, tearing through landscapes, and leaving destruction in its wake. It was as if the Earth itself was fighting back. People panicked. Governments scrambled to make sense of what was happening. But even then, no one could connect the dots. The storm was not the warning, it was only the beginning. In the midst of the chaos, Dr. Harris tried one last time to get through to the world's leaders. The storm is just the start, he said, but his words were lost in the noise. The warning had been ignored, and now, the cost was starting to show. The world didn't realize it yet, but the final warning had come. And soon, they would face the consequences of their refusal to listen. The storm had been only the beginning, a mere taste of what was to come. As the days passed, the chaos from the unnatural weather patterns grew more intense. Cities were in ruin, wildfires raged uncontrollably, and strange phenomena began to appear worldwide, disorienting lights in the sky, sudden temperature drops, and mysterious objects moving silently in the ocean. Still, there were many who dismissed these events as coincidences, natural disasters, or the result of global climate change. But for those who had been paying attention, the pieces were slowly starting to fit together. Dr. Ethan Harris, the scientist who had tried to warn the world, was becoming desperate. His research into the mysterious signal had shown one undeniable truth: it was not just a warning. The aliens, whoever they were, had already been watching Earth for longer than humanity realized. They had seen the destructive path humanity had taken: pollution, greed, war, and they had decided that Earth had no place in the future of the galaxy. The storm was merely a warning of what could happen if humanity did not change. The real threat was much more terrifying: an alien fleet, powerful and advanced, was coming. Despite the overwhelming evidence, the world's leaders still refused to acknowledge the truth. They were too proud, too stubborn, to admit they had been wrong. Instead, they focused on damage control, rebuilding cities, calming the public, and pretending that everything would return to normal soon. But even as they tried to reassure their people, Dr. Harris knew the truth. The aliens had been clear: Earth had no future unless drastic changes were made. And those changes had to happen now. The situation grew more dire with each passing hour. The mysterious objects in the ocean began to move closer to land. Large, metallic structures began to rise from the water, far too advanced to be human-made. In the sky, the faint glimmer of distant ships began to appear, ships that moved with a terrifying precision. As more and more people began to notice these strange occurrences, panic spread like wildfire. Dr. Harris and Dr. Maria Castillo, his trusted colleague, knew they had to act fast. They had begun working together in secret, analyzing the alien signal and trying to understand the alien technology hidden beneath the Earth's surface. The message was clear: the aliens were coming, and humanity had no defense. But perhaps there was hope. The ancient technology that Dr. Harris had uncovered, buried deep within the Earth's crust, could be the key to humanity's survival. But there was a catch. The technology was unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Its designs were too advanced, its materials too unknown. It was clear that the alien race had once visited Earth in the distant past, and this technology had been left behind as a warning. Unfortunately, Dr. Harris knew that unlocking its secrets would take more time than they had. Time was running out. In the midst of their work, global panic reached new heights. Governments began to mobilize their forces, but the military knew that no matter how many soldiers they gathered, they stood no chance against the alien fleet. Reports from around the world confirmed that the aliens were already preparing for invasion. They were not just coming to Earth to warn humanity, they were coming to wipe it out. Meanwhile, Dr. Harris received a message that confirmed his worst fears. The alien fleet was already on its way. A few days remained until their arrival, and there was still so much left to do. The alien ships were massive, each one capable of destroying entire cities with a single blast. The weapons they carried were unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. And with each new piece of information that Dr. Harris and Dr. Castillo uncovered, it became clear that Earth stood no chance. As the alien ships moved closer, Dr. Harris made one final attempt to contact the world's leaders. "We need to unite," he urged, but the response was cold and dismissive. "You're overreacting," they said. "We've weathered storms before. This is just another crisis." But the alien ships weren't like any storm Earth had ever faced. The storm had been nature's warning. The alien fleet was not something Earth could simply endure. It was something Earth would have to fight, if there was any hope left for survival. Desperation spread through Dr. Harris's veins. The world was too divided, too distracted by their own fears and pride, to see the impending destruction. Humanity had ignored the warning, and now it would pay the price. He and Dr. Castillo worked day and night to unlock the ancient technology, but they knew it might not be enough. In the skies above Earth, the first signs of the alien fleet's arrival were visible. Massive ships, glowing with energy, appeared on the horizon. The Earth had been given a final warning. But humanity had failed to listen. And now, the real threat was here. The countdown had begun. The time for talking was over. Earth was about to face its greatest trial, and the question remained: would humanity fight, or would it simply surrender to its fate? The first alien ship appeared on the horizon like a shadow from the depths of space, a massive, silent force that dwarfed anything humanity had ever built. Its metallic surface gleamed with an otherworldly glow, and as it hovered above Earth's atmosphere, its presence was both beautiful and terrifying. For those who had been tracking its approach, there was no mistaking the intent behind the arrival. It wasn't here for diplomacy, it wasn't here for trade. The alien race was here to conquer. The world was thrown into chaos. Governments, military leaders, and scientists scrambled to understand what was happening, but no one had the answers. The alien ships were enormous, their power unfathomable. Even the most advanced human technology had no chance against them. Earth's greatest weapons, missiles, fighter jets, and tanks, were no more than toys in the face of this technological giant. Dr. Ethan Harris, the scientist who had tried to warn the world, felt a cold wave of dread wash over him as the alien ships began to land. He and Dr. Maria Castillo, who had been working tirelessly on unlocking the ancient alien technology, were running out of time. The final piece of the puzzle had been found, hidden deep within a subterranean facility. But the technology was incomplete, too complex, too alien for human minds to fully understand in such a short period. In a final attempt to stop the alien invasion, the world's leaders reluctantly agreed to combine their forces. A global alliance was formed, and the military mobilized for a last-ditch effort to defend Earth. The leaders, once so confident in their ability to handle the situation, now found themselves united by one common goal: survival. But despite their best efforts, it was clear that the weapons they had were insufficient. Dr. Harris and Dr. Castillo were at the center of this effort, their expertise the last hope for humanity. The ancient alien technology, if they could unlock it in time, might provide the key to defeating the invaders. But as they worked feverishly, a bitter truth began to set in. Even if they succeeded in activating the weapon, the chances of winning against the alien forces were slim at best. Every moment they spent trying to perfect the technology felt like a gamble with fate. As the alien ships began to deploy their forces on Earth's surface, the first wave of attacks began. Entire cities were destroyed in minutes. The alien weapons were unlike anything Earth had ever seen. Energy blasts that could melt through the strongest of defenses, mind-controlled soldiers who moved with precision, and fleets of drones that rained destruction down from the skies. It was like a nightmare brought to life. Despite the overwhelming power of the aliens, Dr. Harris held on to a sliver of hope. The ancient technology, though incomplete, might still be powerful enough to turn the tide. He and Dr. Castillo, along with their team, activated the device in the underground lab, sending a pulse of energy into the atmosphere. For a moment, nothing happened. The world held its breath, waiting for the outcome. And then, the skies cracked open. A pulse of energy, unlike anything humanity had ever witnessed, shot into the heavens. It tore through the alien ships with such force that they exploded in midair, their burning wreckage falling to the earth like flaming meteors. The weapon worked, Earth had found its first victory. But the battle was far from over. The aliens, stunned by the unexpected turn of events, retaliated with everything they had. The pulse had caused damage, but it had also left Earth vulnerable. The alien forces now knew that humanity had found a way to fight back, and they weren't going to give up without a full-scale attack. Dr. Harris and Dr. Castillo rushed to the command center as the situation escalated. The Global Alliance had suffered massive casualties in the initial strike, but their forces were rallying. The pulse had given them hope, but they needed more. The alien invasion was far from defeated, and the true test of humanity's will to survive had just begun. With time running out and the alien forces regrouping, Dr. Harris realized the painful truth: the fight for Earth would not be won in a single battle. It would be a war of survival, resilience, and sacrifice. Humanity had ignored the warnings for too long, and now, it would have to pay the price. But in that moment, as he looked out over the shattered landscape, something shifted inside him. The pulse had worked, and that meant humanity had a chance. They weren't defeated yet. The alien invaders had underestimated humanity's ability to fight for survival. And for the first time, Dr. Harris felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, humanity wasn't ready to give up just yet. The war was about to get much worse, but the fight for Earth had only just begun. And this time, humanity was no longer standing alone. In the wake of the alien fleet's first devastating assault, the battle for Earth had entered a new phase, one of desperate defiance. The pulse of energy that Dr. Harris and Dr. Castillo had unleashed had given humanity a small but significant victory. However, this was not enough to turn the tide. The alien invaders were not deterred by the destruction of a few ships. Their fleet was vast, and their technological superiority far surpassed anything Earth had imagined. Earth was losing the war, fast. Dr. Harris stared at the holographic map, his eyes tracing the movements of the alien forces. Their ships, relentless and unyielding, had begun to deploy massive ground troops, cybernetic soldiers with advanced weaponry that seemed almost invincible. Earth's military had been outmatched from the start, but now it was clear, they were fighting a losing battle. Cities were being wiped off the map, entire populations lost in the blink of an eye. Dr. Castillo, working beside him, had a pained look in her eyes. They had poured every ounce of their energy into understanding the ancient technology they'd uncovered, but no matter how much progress they made, it was clear that the device they'd activated was only a small piece of a much larger puzzle. The weapon they had unleashed was powerful, but it wasn't enough to defeat the aliens. In fact, it had only made things worse. The aliens now understood that humanity could fight back, and they were preparing for the final annihilation. "It's not enough," Dr. Castillo said quietly, her voice tinged with the weight of realization. "The weapon we activated, it's just a fragment. We need something more, something powerful enough to strike at their core." Dr. Harris turned to her, determination in his eyes. "Then we find it," he said, his voice firm. "We've come this far. We're not giving up now." The last hope lay in an ancient legend, a story passed down through generations, whispered among the few who still believed. It was said that buried deep beneath Earth's crust, hidden away for millennia, was a device of unimaginable power. The story had always been treated as myth, but now, in the face of annihilation, Dr. Harris believed it was real. He and Dr. Castillo had already uncovered parts of the ancient technology, but the final piece, the key to unlocking the true power of Earth's defense, remained elusive. They had a single lead, a small, remote island in the Pacific Ocean, untouched by the chaos that had consumed the rest of the world. The island, believed to be a natural reserve, had long been protected from human intervention. According to ancient texts, it was the final resting place of the alien device, a weapon capable of turning the tide of the war. Without hesitation, Dr. Harris made the call. The world's leaders, seeing no other option, reluctantly agreed to the plan. The remaining military forces would support the scientists on a perilous journey to retrieve the final piece of the weapon. It was a suicide mission, everyone knew it. But with Earth on the brink of total destruction, there was no other choice. As Dr. Harris, Dr. Castillo, and a small team of soldiers boarded the transport aircraft bound for the island, the reality of what they were about to do settled heavily on their shoulders. This wasn't just a mission to retrieve technology, it was humanity's last stand. The flight to the island was tense. Outside, the skies were dark with the smoke of burning cities, the remnants of humanity's last attempt to fight back. The alien ship still hovered above, undeterred, but now, there was something new in the air, an undeniable sense of urgency. After hours of flying, they finally reached the island. It was as if the Earth itself was holding its breath. The landscape was eerily still, untouched by the chaos that ravaged the rest of the world. As they disembarked, Dr. Harris and his team moved quickly, following the coordinates that had been passed down through the ancient texts. They reached the heart of the island, a cave hidden beneath a waterfall. Inside, the air was thick with mystery, the walls etched with symbols that seemed to glow faintly in the dim light. And there, in the center of the cave, was the device. It was unlike anything they had ever seen, an enormous, crystalline structure, pulsing with energy. The air around it hummed with power, and for the first time in days, Dr. Harris felt a surge of hope. This was it, the last hope for Earth's survival. But as they moved closer to the device, the ground trembled beneath them. The alien forces had followed them. The battle for Earth's future would now be decided in this ancient cave, where humanity's fate would be sealed by the power of the device, or destroyed by the alien invaders. As the alien ships descended, their weapons primed and ready, Dr. Harris knew one thing with certainty: this was the moment that would define humanity's future. Would they rise to the challenge, or would they be consumed by the very force they had tried to avoid? The fate of Earth rested in their hands. The cave was silent except for the low hum of the ancient device. It was as if time itself had slowed. Dr. Harris stood in front of the glowing structure, feeling the immense power emanating from it. The crystalline structure pulsed rhythmically, like a heartbeat, a reminder that Earth's future rested in their hands. But as the air vibrated with energy, the ground began to tremble, growing stronger with each passing second. Dr. Castillo grabbed his arm, her face filled with panic. "They're here," she whispered, barely audible over the roar of the trembling earth. Outside, the alien ships hovered, their metallic hulls gleaming in the twilight of Earth's final days. The alien forces had followed them, and now they were descending, their weapons prepared to obliterate any last hope humanity might have. The small team of soldiers stood ready, weapons raised, but they knew the truth: the fight for survival had never seemed more impossible. With the device just a few meters away, Dr. Harris felt the weight of the decision pressing on him. If he activated the weapon, there was no turning back. The alien forces would either be destroyed, or humanity would be crushed in retaliation. The stakes were higher than ever before. But as the vibrations beneath their feet grew stronger, he realized they didn't have much time left. "Get ready," he barked to his team. "We can't wait for perfect conditions. We have to act now." He approached the device, hands trembling slightly. The ancient technology had been largely unlocked, but there were still details they didn't fully understand. It was a weapon, yes, but it was also something far beyond anything Earth had ever imagined. He had no idea what activating it might truly do, but the stakes left no room for hesitation. As Dr. Harris reached out to touch the device, the ground shook violently. The alien ships began to open fire, their laser beams slicing through the air and crashing into the ground around them. The soldiers fired back, but their weapons had little effect on the oncoming storm. The aliens were relentless, and Earth's military was outmatched in every way. Dr. Castillo, standing close by, shouted over the chaos. "It's not ready. We need more time." But there was no more time. Dr. Harris's eyes locked onto the crystalline core of the device. In the fleeting seconds before the first blast from the alien ships hit the ground near them, he made his choice. He slammed his hand against the central control panel of the device, triggering a pulse of energy that illuminated the cave in blinding light. A shockwave erupted from the device, blasting through the walls of the cave and out into the sky. The ground cracked open, and the alien ships, hovering above the battlefield, were hit by the powerful pulse. At first, nothing seemed to happen, but then, the ships began to convulse as if they were alive. They shook violently, their hulls cracking and splintering as if the pulse had hit them at their core. And then, in a spectacular explosion of light and sound, the alien ships began to disintegrate. One by one, they vanished into fiery clouds of debris, unable to withstand the power of the ancient weapon. The soldiers and Dr. Harris's team stood frozen in shock, watching as the skies above them erupted in a breathtaking spectacle. The alien fleet was being torn apart, their forces dismantled by a power no one on Earth could have ever imagined. The final battle seemed to have been won. But Dr. Harris's victory was short-lived. As the last of the alien ships disintegrated, the ground beneath them buckled, and a deep, rumbling voice echoed through the cave, vibrating the very bones of those present. "You cannot win." A figure appeared before them. Tall, armored, and unmistakably alien, it was the commander, the leader of the invaders, the one who had orchestrated Earth's destruction from the very beginning. With a glance, it sent shockwaves through the cave, throwing soldiers and scientists alike to the ground. Dr. Harris, struggling to stand, locked eyes with the commander. The alien's face was unreadable, but there was a quiet arrogance in its posture. "You think this weapon is enough to save your world?" the alien commander asked coldly. "You have no idea what you're dealing with. Your planet will burn, just like all the others." The alien raised its arm, summoning an orb of energy that crackled with lethal force. The room filled with a suffocating silence as the orb began to pulse, preparing to strike down Earth's last hope. Dr. Harris, barely able to catch his breath, knew they had no more time. The device, the weapon, might have destroyed the alien fleet, but it wasn't enough to stop the leader. With a cry of determination, Dr. Harris lunged toward the device, smashing the remaining control panel. The pulse of energy that followed was unlike anything before. It wasn't just a weapon, it was a beacon, sending out a signal that vibrated through the very fabric of the universe. For a moment, everything stopped. The alien commander faltered, eyes wide in shock. In that instant, the power of the weapon was fully unleashed, spreading outward across space, tearing through the aliens' shields and attacking their core. The figure screamed, vanishing in an explosion of raw energy. The cave trembled as the leader of the invaders was erased from existence. The battle was over. Earth's last stand had ended in victory, but at a cost. The price of survival had been steep, many lives were lost, and much of the world lay in ruin. Yet, as the last of the alien forces disintegrated in the sky, Earth had been given another chance. In the silence that followed, Dr. Harris turned to his team. "We've won," he said quietly, though his voice carried the weight of the knowledge that this victory had been hard-won. They had survived, barely. But they had survived. And now, with the alien threat eradicated, the difficult task of rebuilding Earth had begun. The fight for the future of humanity had taken its toll, but humanity had proved one thing: it would never surrender, no matter the cost.